Welcome back. It's episode 35 of the Women of Wrestling podcast here at ringbellsonline.com. As always, Irish Stu Allen here alongside my colleague Freaky Lee Burton. And Lee, it's a 2-for-1 special today.
Double your pleasure, double your fun.
You can say that, absolutely. Yeah, we've got two.
I just did.
You've got two competitors coming up in the 2CW Girls Grand Prix show on the 24th of this month. And those two competitors are going to be Cherry Bomb and Veda Scott.
Veda Scott's someone who we've been following since she debuted, which was less than a year ago. And Cherry Bomb's the first person who's actually campaigned to be on this podcast.
Yes. So they're coming together on that show, so we thought what better time to get them both on together. 2CW is a promotion that probably a lot of people listening haven't heard a lot about. This show is going to be in upstate New York, in Binghamton, New York. It's not a fully female show, but it's a very heavily female-oriented show on this occasion, and it's an 8-woman tournament. But it's an 8-woman tournament. Well, who doesn't love tournaments, right? But it's an 8-woman tournament that's been it's been beset by problems. The original card, as announced, has resulted in 4 changes out of the 8 initial competitors. And in fact, of the 4 matches that comprise the first round, only one of them is completely untouched.
True, but the matches which are taking place are still very intriguing and do lead to some interesting semi-finals and final matches.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think in all cases the people who've ended up subbing in for people are fair enough substitutions. You can argue if they're better or lesser quality, but they're all good. They're all good subs.
Absolutely. So let's talk about who's out first.
Yes, out of the show as originally intended, Serena Deeb, who's still getting over her concussion issues, Courtney Rush, Nikki Rocks, and also Lexus, all off the show.
So yeah, that's who's out.
And coming in, Veda Scott, Allison Kay, Mercedes Martinez, and Mia Yim.
So we've got some interesting first round matches. We've got Summerlin versus Veda Scott. We've got Perez versus Cherry Bomb. That's the only match to have survived. Allison Kay versus Sarah Del Rey, and Mercedes Martinez against Mia Yim.
Yes, Mercedes versus Mia Yim being the one match that was completely changed. That was originally Nikki Rocks versus Lexus. But no, I mean, there's plenty of stuff on here. There's going to be the 4 first-round matches, 2 semi-finals, and the final all on the show. 2CW have been doing a bit of female grappling of late. They've had Portia Perez and Sarah Del Rey both in there recently as kind of their 2 main stars.
Well, Portia Perez has been a tag champion.
Yes, indeed she was up until recently. So this is their opportunity now to, I guess, stick a bit of a tentative toe into the waters and see whether or not they could put a show where really the emphasis is on the woman.
There's some interesting potential semi-finals, though. And if we just want to go through it, there's the possibility of Portia and Rachel reprising their ACW feud.
Yeah, and there's a potential on the other side for either the Sarah Del Rey Mercedes Martinez rivalry to get going again, or even the potential for Allison Kay versus Mia Yim, which after the events of Girls Night Out could be an interesting one.
Could be a shattering experience.
Yes, to say the least. So yeah, we've got that coming up, and we thought we'd have a chat to some of the competitors. And if you go back into the history of the show as well, you'll see chats with some of the other competitors as well. We've had Mercedes, we've had Sarah Del Rey, we've had Portia Perez all on the show, and Rachel Summerlin as well.
Christ, we talked to nearly everyone in this tournament.
Yes. That means we're going to have to do a podcast with Allison Kay and Mia Yim pretty damn soon.
That's going to be interesting.
We'll try and get them on at the same time.
That'd be great.
Yes. But apart from that, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, go back and listen to our last podcast. Not to look backwards too much, we always like to look forward here, but do check out episode 34 if you can. It's a departure for us, a little bit of a different style of podcast, kind of like a writer's episode, I guess, featuring Alex Greenfield, former WWE creative writer, talking through the conception and execution of the entire Mickie James versus Trish Stratus feud from 2005-2006.
Very interesting chat as well. A lot of people have been saying it's been quite insightful to have a focus on just that one subject in such depth.
Yeah, I think everyone was quite happy with how it turned out. I know Alex said he doesn't usually get the chance to talk in such depth about one particular angle from start to finish, and he certainly appreciated it. And yeah, very good. We'll possibly look into the potential of doing other such similar shows if such an opportunity becomes available.
So go back and have a listen to that, as well as all the other podcasts which are still available, or you can subscribe to it via iTunes.
Yes.
And also there's some other audio that's floating around which isn't on iTunes, which is exclusive just to the website, with the Fight Like a Girl, and also the new My Name Is, which has a brand new episode up this week with OVW's Alida Ortiz.
Yes, who's just debuted her first ever pro wrestling interview.
Yeah, so have a listen to that, see how she sounds.
Absolutely. While we're in the process of shilling ourselves, which we do every few shows, we got to pay the bills at the end of the day. There's a new shop for our friends in the United States.
Yeah, now we only had the European shop beforehand for t-shirts, and there was a bit of a demand for it because people said, the delivery prices are quite high to get it shipped across the Atlantic to the US and Canada, and you're right, they were quite expensive. So what we've done is we've bowed to public pressure, and we've created a all North American site with cheaper delivery prices and hopefully more reasonable exchange rates for you as well. Also, if you're living in Australia, you can go to the US shop and get your stuff delivered from there because you couldn't get it delivered from the European shop. And also, just for a little treat for you, there are hoodies on the North American page.
Hoodies, you say?
Yes, we have hoodies of all of our designs. So if you want a Misa Dix hoodie, you can have one. You want a Kick Out and Hulk Up hoodie, you can have one. You want a No Limits hoodie, you can have one.
You're starting to sound like Don West.
I'm better than Don West. I'm British.
Wow.
No, it's not true. Don West is awesome.
All right. Well, look, before we get to our guests here and have a chat with them, let's give a quick rundown of what's coming up over the next couple of months as far as shows. Some big stuff coming up. This Sunday, actually, Lufisto has her match down in Lucha Pop down in Mexico. She'll be taking on Vaquerita. It was a delayed booking from delayed booking from late last year.
From December, yeah.
From December, so that's been rescheduled, and she's off to head south of the border this weekend. Following that, next weekend we have Eve with their No Man's Land show from Sudbury. Check evewrestling.com for ticket availability on that one.
Yeah, also coming up, we have got the Girls Grand Prix show, which is on February 24th, which we're going to be talking about. AEW, also on the same day in Marionette Park, Illinois, has Mina Libra versus Mischief. There's a Joshi for Hope show coming up later this month.
Indeed, and then WSU have got their iPay-per-view. And that's going to be on March 3rd, and that's the start of the very busy month of March for women's wrestling shows, where there's something big happening every weekend. Because the weekend after WSU, we have NCW Femme Fatale in Montreal, March 10th, headlined by Calamity versus Mercedes Martinez, and all sorts of other international guests.
Yeah, we've also got Shimmer the weekend after that, March 17th and 18th, 4 DVD tapings over the weekend.
St. Patrick's Day weekend as well. Could be a messy one. And then the weekend after that, WAWW return to action, also headlined by Mercedes Martinez. Funnily enough, she's going to have a very busy month. And that's going to be at the Project nightclub in Norwich, England.
And if you're interested in Joshi, later on this month, February 19th to be exact, it's Smash 25, Kana v Shuri, Kana defending the Smash Divas title, which she recently won back, so it's a bit of a hot potato title, so who knows what's going to happen in that one.
Also on that same card, actually, is a 6-woman tag as well, with Makoto, Lynn Byron, and Aki Shizuku versus Nane Takahashi, Tomoka Nakagawa, and Kagetsu. So, good stuff coming up for Smash.
And the 19 Pro Tournament continues every Friday.
Yes, Ustream, everybody. No excuse.
All right, well, that's enough promotion and shilling. Let's get on with the meat and potatoes of this podcast. We've got guests.
We do. Coming up in the main event slot will be Cherry Bomb. But before we get to there, we've got a chat with one of our bloggers on the site, in fact, and someone who I know a lot of people are very interested in. She's so new, she doesn't even have a Wikipedia page yet.
Or a cage match profile.
if you want to know all about her, there's one place to find out. It's right here. She is Veda Scott. Okay, we're back with the first of our two guests here on the Women of Wrestling podcast this episode. One of the competitors in the 2CW Girls Grand Prix coming up on the 24th of February. Where in the first round she'll be taking on Rachel Summerlin. Welcome to the show, Veda Scott.
Hello.
Hey, that was an understated hello, but as we as we prepare for 2CW Girls Grand Prix, are you excited about the prospect of taking on Rachel Summerlin in the first round?
I am. This is actually one of the matches that I wanted to have, in general, but sooner rather than later, and I didn't really care where it was. So for it to be for 2CW in New York is a little bit unexpected because I didn't expect to see Rachel there or meet Rachel up on the East Coast in general. But she's one of my favorite people in general, but she's obviously one of my favorite people in wrestling too. So to wrestle her was not just a goal, but just an experience that I want to have overall because I love Rachel.
I love the fact that you're already ticking things off your wrestling bucket list and you're less than a year into your career. You've done pretty well so far. One of the main questions I'd like to ask you, and it's is one that I don't know if everyone knows or not, but apart from being a pro wrestler, you're also a law student.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a law student want to be a pro wrestler?
I think it's the other way around. It's what would make someone who wants to be a pro wrestler go to law school.
Right.
Because all I've ever was wrestle, and I just kept coming up with other things to do instead. Law school being one of them. That's just my personality is very well suited for. And I won't get too far into this because it's boring, but law school is a very different kind of educational process in terms of the analysis involved and the setup of how the work is done. And it's basically just 24/7 work, and that's just how my personality functions. I mean, it's good for me to be completely overloaded because I do better like that. And so when I finished my undergrad degree, I did want to go right into a PhD program, and when it came time to apply for them, I thought, I should have sort of a life first. And I went and I didn't apply, I didn't go. And I was a TV producer actually for a little while, but during that time I intended to train, I intended to start wrestling, and I just kept coming up with other more realistic things, thinking that I would forget about it, but obviously I didn't forget about it. So law school was another, I think, attempt to, be practical.
It's a very intensive course, though. I mean, you could pick other things, I suppose, but maybe aren't so time intensive like a law school. I mean, I lived with some law students, and I think they spent every waking hour with their nose in books. How do you find the time to also train to be a wrestler as well as get your law degree?
I think it really is you just have to be organized, and I say this all the time, and I know it sounds really nerdy, but you just have to be organized, and if you have timetables for yourself, and you just sort of have a schedule that you maintain, and don't sleep ever, but I wasn't sleeping already, and I kind of started training to be a wrestler a little bit later. Not later because it's not it's only 3 years, but I didn't start law school at the same time I started wrestling school. So I had sort of something established already for myself, and then I started training. So I knew what I was getting into because I had already started school. So I don't know. There's lots of people who go to school and go to wrestling school at the same time. This is just a little bit, I guess, more serious because, I have a lot riding on law school because at this point, I really do need to figure out what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah, well, there's still a little bit of time, I guess. And far be it from me to suggest one thing over the other, but I would imagine a career as a lawyer is slightly more lucrative in the long run than a career as a pro wrestler.
Oh, I've never wanted to be a lawyer. There's a lot that you can do with your law degree, and there's a lot you can do as a member of the bar anyway that isn't necessarily strictly practicing law. So we'll see.
Okay, fair enough. So, when you decided that, okay, right, I've got 10 minutes in my life, I can afford to sign up to a wrestling school. You went to the ROH and Shimmer Academy, trained under Delirious and Daisy Hayes. Was that always your first choice?
Sort of. I didn't have any necessarily other choices. I just and I do say this a lot too, that when you're picking a wrestling school, it's a lot like picking a college. You have to do a lot of research, and you have to sort of look into different things and look into different trainers and see where the best fit is going to be for you. And for me, Ring of Honor was the best fit because it's a very serious program. It's very regimented. It's very it really is a sort of curriculum, and that's what works best for me, because I don't like sort of loose fly-by-night, show up and let's see what happens kind of things. I like structure, and I like to know that the person who's teaching me knows what he and she are doing, and that's what I get there. There's a lot of other great schools though in my area too. Shikara similarly is very, very regimented and very much very, very serious. But I ended up in Ring of Honor, and it ended up being the right choice. The Shimmer connection obviously was influential as well.
How did you find the training? Was it what you thought it would be, or did it turn out that it was physically more taxing than you thought?
Well, training to be a wrestler is in general the most physically taxing thing I think most people will do. Training and working out every day in the ring is more. It can be more physically taxing than actually wrestling, because there's a lot of repetition involved in doing cardio and that sort of thing, and just a lot of working out that doesn't have anything to do with, that we wouldn't think has anything to do with wrestling, but it obviously does. So for me, it's important, I think, to be in shape before you start. I think a lot of people start training and they aren't in any condition to be doing anything physically, and that's a mistake, and they usually don't do too well. So yeah, you just have to look at it as any other major physical undertaking, like if you were going to train in jiu-jitsu or something like that.
You made your debut eventually May 15th last year against your trainer, against Daisy. Tell us about how just before you were able to make your debut, you come up with the look. How did you formulate that in your head of what you were going to be as a performer?
Well, it really is just me. I mean, it really is. In terms of the look, anyone who knows me outside of wrestling, and now I guess aspects of me in wrestling, since I'm doing the interview thing with Ring of Honor, and you can see how I what my own personal look is. I'm very into interesting clothes, interesting patterns, interesting fabrics, that sort of thing. I'm a very tactile person, so things like velvet, brocade, anything that you can touch, I like. And in terms of the houndstooth, that was something we found, but at the same time, I wear that particular I legitimately do wear that particular pattern all the time. I have a houndstooth coat I was wearing this morning. So it was a look that's kind of based off of how I dress outside of the ring, not in spandex, but in other fibers. But in general, the whole idea of the box pleated skirt and everything those are clothes I actually wear. So it's just a way to sort of bring as much of me as possible into the ring.
By the time you debuted, though, and this is the thing, and I'm going to pay you a compliment here, I guess, by saying that you seem to come out for the most part fully formed. You already seem to have the knack for performing, the knack for making yourself look comfortable out there right from the beginning, from some of the early matches of yours that I saw. Did it come easily to you?
I don't know if easy is the right word. It's just sometimes something clicks and you just feel really confident in terms of I've never had a time that I didn't. I mean, my first matches, I was very nervous about not seriously injuring anybody, that kind of thing. But I wasn't nervous about being in front of a crowd, because I'm a bit of a ham to begin with. So I think that helps. I don't know. Sometimes you just feel like you're very at home, and I feel very at home in front of a crowd. So I guess that's influential as well. I also, like I said before, I don't want to keep harping on this, but my training was just very thorough, and it really did, I feel, prepare me to actually be out there, wrestling in front of a crowd, having matches as opposed to just, having matches that are entertaining all the way, entertaining on every level and competitive on every level, rather than just, to kind of entertain myself or whatever people are trying to do when I don't necessarily think that they're, performing at their best.
Was it more reassuring in your debut match being in there with Daisy Hayes, considering she was your trainer?
Well, yes and no. And people ask some variation of this all the time. So I mean, and it's maybe not the answer people want to hear. Daisy was one of my trainers, yes, but we had not really, in terms of having matches before I debuted, in terms of working out with each other in full, just doing a lot of physical things with each other. We really hadn't, and it ended up being a good thing because we wanted to sort of keep it fresh so that we could, when we went out there, it didn't seem like she knows everything about me. She did train me, but we didn't want it to feel like, well, we've done this a million times before, because we actually hadn't. So there was a freshness to it that I think was really important. So I felt, I think, really comfortable just because Daisy's as good as she is. I mean, she's the best, and I felt like I was in good hands. But at the same time, it was super high pressure because I care about her opinion more than I care about anyone else's. So I didn't want things to go horribly awry and have her be disappointed. That was I think the biggest pressure for me, was not disappointing her, and it was even more urgent because she was in the ring.
I can ask you a question, actually. I just thought, I don't actually know the answer to this. We know Daisy's taken a bit of a step away from wrestling now. Is there anybody else in the ROH Academy training the women, or is Delirious, is he doing it all, or what's going on there now?
Well, we don't have any other women, I guess, is the best way to put it. Well, we don't, in general, when I train, we don't have a ton of students right now, and that is, if you actually go onto the Ring of Honor website, I think it'll say this under the school. It's on a bit of a hiatus in terms of accepting new students, but I think it's working on coming together again. I can't really go into all the details of that, but when the company was sold, there's obviously restructuring all the time. So there actually hadn't been another woman before me for a while, and there hasn't been since. But I mean, that doesn't really make much of a difference because we train with the men. I mean, there's no separate. There's various different things that you need to learn, I think, as a woman, in terms of what you may encounter in and out of the ring. But at the same time, the training is essentially all the same. So actually, wrestling Daisy, I believe, was one of, if not the first times I'd ever really had a match against another woman. I may have done in training some things with other women in terms of maybe some tag matches, but I don't know that I'd ever wrestled another woman one-on-one. So that was interesting too, but it's really not any different.
Well, speaking about wrestling men, your fourth match, as it was pointed out at the time, was in Beyond Wrestling against Josh Thor.
No, the great Josh Thor, I think.
Oh, my mistake, the great Josh Thor. How could I forget? And you didn't bow. I mean, how dare you?
Yeah, the Beyond Wrestling thing kind of came up pretty suddenly. They were doing one of their tapings in an area where I was going to be, so I wanted to be a part of it. And their model is basically they do those tapings where you see there's no outside fans, and they release those as sometimes DVDs, sometimes as internet content, and then lately they've also been doing live shows too, which are more I guess you'd call them traditional wrestling shows. But this was one of the tapings, which was closed off to fans, so it was other wrestlers in the area, and so it was just kind of show up, see what works, and see what you want to do, and just go out there and do it. And it's very experimental, and it's a chance to kind of wrestle people who you haven't maybe been able to wrestle otherwise, or wouldn't even, come across otherwise. You wouldn't necessarily interact with. And it's particularly as a woman because, for the most part, in general, people don't book a lot of intergender things on their shows, or they don't promote a lot of intergender matches. So for me, the opportunity to wrestle anyone at Beyond was kind of probably going to be a one and done or a unique kind of thing. So yeah, that particular day I did get Josh Thor.
One thing that I've been quite impressed with, given, again, your limited experience as far as your ring time is concerned, is you've been expanding your influence quite a bit through different states and different places. One place you've been a couple of times now, and you've got over every time you've been there, is AEW. You've been at the last couple of Girls Night Out shows. You got a great reaction in your match with Cherry Bomb at Girls Night Out 4. I think you got Please Come Back chants and so on. I mean, that's got to be gratifying to go into a new area and leave with people wanting you to come back.
And definitely for that Girls Night Out show, that was also pretty early on. I mean, it's all early on in general for me right now, but relatively early on I guess I've been wrestling for, I want to say 7 or 8 months right now. So at that point, it had only been maybe 2 months. Perhaps even, about 2 months. So at that point I was like a complete, just like non-entity. I don't think I had done anything that had been, really released to any sort of wider audience. I was just totally just a nobody. And I'm still a nobody, but I'm slightly less of a nobody. I'm perhaps like a W-list wrestling celebrity right now. But at that point, it was maybe below a C-list. So that was taking a big chance on me to put me out there, especially with someone like Cherry Bomb, who's very well traveled and very experienced, and she's been to Japan and is just incredible. And I really appreciated that opportunity, and that chance. And I think we both really wanted to make the best of it. So yeah, and I was just there again a week, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, whatever, for their most recent Girls Night Out show, and I will hopefully be back for the next one and the next one and the next one.
The chance, the Please Come Back and all that, did you remember any of those? Because you got your bell absolutely well and truly rung at the end of your match with Cherry Bomb. She looked like she killed you.
It's one of those weird things because I don't really know. I don't really remember the actual after the match so much.
No kidding.
From being there. I kind of just remember being in the back with like a Coke can held up to my head. But I've watched it enough times that I feel like sometimes it's like this in general with wrestling, where you're really caught up in the moment and you don't remember everything that's happening at the time, and then you go back and watch it, and you sort of form these memories. It's like watching a video of yourself when you were a child, and you don't really remember your first Christmas, but you think maybe you do because you've watched it. So I kind of have a memory of the end of the match, but I think it's more just from watching it. But it's still exciting. And it was a very exciting match and a very exciting end to the match. And I'm glad the crowd appreciated it. That's always good.
When you get your bell rung like that, and you are sitting backstage with a Coke can to your head, do you sort of think, "What the hell am I doing?"
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always that aspect of things running through your head all the time. But at the same time, there's so much adrenaline and so much exhilaration, and I wasn't. After every match, you're banged up and you're hurt, but as long as you can, walk out of there and you're not, it's not like a life-ending, career-ending injury. I think there's always that, but I'll do it again. So.
Yes. From Girls Night Out 5, then you took on and defeated Kimberly, our correspondent there. He called you a star in the making. It's got to be nice to get compliments like that again so early in your career. I mean, what do you think when you hear sort of things like that?
I mean, I'm very appreciative, honestly. It's not, I don't know, I watch a lot of what I do, and I try to be very critical of myself, and I try not to be so critical that I can't be grateful and appreciative of what I'm doing. I'm just overly critical in general of myself in every aspect of my life. So to see positive feedback from other people, I really do need to see that, because in general, and this is not just with wrestling, but with every aspect of my life, I think I'm overly critical, perhaps negatively critical, and I know that's a major flaw in me. And there's got to be a line between just like shitting on everything you do versus being like, I'm awesome, no one can tell me any differently. So I haven't really found a balance. I'm sort of definitely on one end. So to see all this positive feedback, is really, I don't even want to say it's reassuring. It's kind of gratifying and surprising. But I'm glad that I'm connecting with an audience as opposed to, just sort of being forgettable because no one wants to be forgettable. So, and I'm glad I'm not forgettable in a good way. I mean, there's plenty of people out there who are very memorable because they're entertainingly awful. I'd like to be entertaining, but perhaps not entertainingly awful, so we'll see.
You got some positive feedback when you were at Shimmer as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. That's pretty much what I got from it. The whole weekend is still sort of a blur because it was just like, I can't believe I'm doing this kind of thing. And I haven't watched any of my matches back because the footage isn't out yet. So yeah, like again, it's just to get any sort of positive feedback or negative feedback or feedback at all from the women who were there in the locker room. And I'm not even talking about the fans right now. I mean just the women who were in the locker room and watching our matches and giving us criticism is unbelievable. Just the names and the amount of knowledge. So yeah, that whole weekend is still kind of just like, what?
You made your full card debut on Volume 44 then against Taylor Made, and well, actually, this hasn't been announced yet, so I don't know if we could even say this, but I mean, I assume you'd be looking forward to returning to Shimmer fairly soon.
I mean, like nothing's ever definite until announcements are made. So I mean, that's all I'll say. I might be back, I might not, but if I'm not, I'm sure it'll still be a great show, and if I am, I'm hoping it will all additionally be a good show that I will not ruin. So we'll see.
I tell you, I think I mentioned it to you at the after party, but that tornado DDT into a regular DDT that you did was just fantastic. It's just one of those moves you sit there and you go, oh, nice. I think that was my reaction to it at the time, and I feel like when the DVD is released, you seriously have to buy it to watch it. I'm talking to the listeners, 'cause I'm assuming you hopefully get one for free.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really know. These would be my first DVDs, so.
Oh man.
But regardless, I will definitely have a DVD.
Excellent. Hey, and if you want to get Veda Scott in your life, you don't only have to buy DVDs. You can also buy T-shirts as well. You recently had an exclusive T-shirt up on barbershopwindow.com. How did that come about?
Yep. Really, really bizarrely, I got an email from the guy behind the website, from the artist and the businessman behind it, who does all those awesome T-shirts and super creative, super clever. There's some up right now that are hilarious. And he said, I'm a fan. I'd like to do a shirt with you. And I was like, well, here's the thing. That's great, and I really appreciate that. I hope you aren't counting on selling any, because I don't have any. This was a while ago. I didn't really have any national presence. But he was willing to give it a shot, and I appreciated that. And I loved the design, which he came up with this design that was just so cool, and included this neon green without knowing that the second set of gear I was in the middle of making or having made included the neon green, so that was kind of cool. And they're actually they actually did pretty well and continue to do well. I think they're now in the overstock bin, which is just I don't quite understand. It's bizarro to see yourself on a T-shirt that someone's wearing. There was a bunch of them worn at the most recent Ring of Honor TV tapings, which is just crazy. It's just so I don't know. That's me, and I'm on a T-shirt. I don't quite get it. So it did encourage me, though, because people have asked, when you going to do another one. So I think I may have to come up with something myself to have, because with these shirts, you do have to buy them off barbershopwindow.com. I don't have my own inventory. So like when people ask at shows, I'll just direct them there. But it might be nice to have, a stock of my own of something maybe different to have, to sell at shows myself. So this kind of has encouraged me to maybe do that or some other kind of merchandise. Because right now I just kind of sell 8x10s because I'm still sort of disbelieving that anyone would want to, buy the wares that I will very encouragingly and very enthusiastically chill, but I don't know. It's all very strange. Because I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I bought people's t-shirts. Why is someone buying a t-shirt of me?
Because you're Veda Scott.
It's all very weird. And I'm just incredibly, I know I keep saying I'm grateful, but it's not even just like oh, I'm so grateful, Miss America type of speech. Like, it's just, I don't really understand any of this, but, I'm happy for all of it.
My t-shirt arrived this morning, actually.
Really?
Yeah, legitimately. So there you go. You mentioned briefly, and we'll finish up with this about the last ROH taping, and you've recently got a gig at ROH doing backstage announcing, backstage interviewing, I should say.
Yep. I mean, I obviously I'm at all the shows working anyway, and I do various things for Ring of Honor, including just ring crew duties, and I was the timekeeper for a while out at ringside. But it's just a matter of sometimes opportunities come up for you to for something like an announcing gig. That's more of an audition process than a wrestling kind of thing, and sometimes opportunities come up to sort of go through a process, and sometimes you make the right impression, and you happen to be right for something that you've tried out for, or whatever you want to say, and so this is just at the same time. I mean, I'm already around Ring of Honor, so I'm a good fit for a locker room correspondent, which is essentially what I am, because I already know the roster, and I already know the ins and outs of what's going on there, and the history of Ring of Honor, and that's important for a broadcaster. So that is definitely helpful. Essentially what I'm doing right now is, if you watch the television show, whether it's in your market or you watch it online, I do a lot of the locker room interviews from the locker room. And then there's also, the video wires we put out. I do some interviews on there. And then I've also been doing some interviews on DVDs that I don't think have come out yet, but it's all sort of backstage, Mean Gene style, pre-taped sort of interviews.
It's not the first interviewing gig that you've done, though. You did some stuff back in the day. There's a video online of you interviewing Ultramantis Black.
Yep. I love when people recognize me from them and bring them up because they were so much fun to do. But that was like a completely just independent project. Someone who was interested in doing it contacted me and said, "Hey, would you want to do this?" And I was like, "Sure, let's okay." And I can't remember exactly because it was a few years ago, like you said. I think the format we used was fans send in some questions online, and I tried to ask those questions and interact with the different wrestlers. There was Ultramantis Black. I think I interviewed Drake Younger at one point, Orange Cassidy, and I feel like there was something else too. But anyway, I think the Ultramantis Black one is still online in some form. But yeah, that was really my one and only broadcasting experience before this. So it's and that itself was just kind of a talk showy format, kind of weird, but super fun. So I love to talk, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing right now.
It's very weird that you said that's your real sort of start the broadcasting thing, because you look very natural in it. One of the comments, and I have to read you this one, it says she has the interviewing skills of a female James Lipton.
I don't
know how you want to take that. I just thought I'd tell you.
Yeah, no, that was really, I mean, that was pretty much it. In terms of, like, an actual, like, filmed, formal, casting thing, you know, I've not been a news reporter. Oh, no, that's not true. I'm completely lying. I just remembered that in the 7th grade, I did, Kid Time News, which were these children's news segments that were broadcast before the regular news, in the area where I grew up. And I did a bunch of those, researched the stories, and then did the broadcasting. So I'm completely lying. I do have an extensive broadcasting history, including my time on Kid Time News.
Tell me those videos exist somewhere.
You know, my father, I'm sure, has the VHS somewhere for him to burn, hopefully, soon.
Oh, please.
Wow. So, look, lawyer, wrestler, broadcaster, T-shirt model. What's next?
Well, I have a bunch of wrestling coming up that I'm pretty excited about. And then we have more Ring of Honor shows coming up, including another round of television tapings in the beginning of March. We have our Florida shows down at the end of March. So, I mean, I guess in general, I have a lot of wrestling of my own. I kind of differentiate. I mean, I have a lot of my in-ring wrestling that I'm going to be doing coming up. I have a lot of dates booked. My March is pretty full, and my April is filling up. But then I also have the Ring of Honor backstage interviewing broadcasting thing too. So, kind of a separate thing.
And a law degree to finish.
Well, yeah, I guess that too.
Yeah. So, what happens then? You know, once you graduate, can you keep juggling all these balls?
I have a plan. That I don't get into too extensively.
All right.
But yeah. So.
She's going to be negotiating WWE contracts.
Yeah. No, that's not really the plan.
I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the next couple of years you discover a cure to cancer in your spare time.
Let's spare 10 minutes in a day, just before she goes to bed.
Yeah.
Finish playing with a cat, go to bed. Oh, hang on, I'm just going to cure cancer. What the hell?
Oh, my cat's actually right here. He's sitting on me. I came home to do the interview, and he's right here.
Well, there you go. Well, look, I feel quite bad that we're taking time away from your clearly very busy life to do this interview, so I much appreciate it. We'll look forward to covering your appearances coming up, as we say, 2CW coming up, and lots more March and April. Keep us updated on what's going on, and we'll tell the rest of the world.
Yep.
All right. Thanks very much. And
thank you.
Everyone, keep listening. We'll be back in 2 Shakes of a Lamb's Tail with Cherry Bomb.
Oh, I wish I was going to be on for that one too. I love her.
Okay, we are back now with our second guest on the show, our main event guest, if you will, another competitor in 2CW's Girls Grand Prix, 24th of February in Binghamton, New York. She's also the Queen of Neo. She is none other than Cherry Bomb. Cherry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, boys.
It's not even a case of thanks for having you. You've been campaigning to get onto this podcast.
Yeah, I know, because everyone gets to go on it. Why the hell haven't I been asked to go on it?
If we're honest, we've just been biding our time.
I see.
We have a sort of shopping list of people, and you have definitely been on it, and we're just looking for the right moment. And seeing as Girls Grand Prix is coming up, now is that right moment.
All right. I'll accept that.
Okay, so she's not going to kill us, Stu.
Excellent. We got away with that. Brilliant. But, you know, let's talk about 2CW then coming up, as we said, 24th of February. A 8-woman tournament. In the first round, you're going to be taking on your fellow Ontarian, Portia Perez. Any thoughts on that match?
Well, me and I've actually been wanting to work with Portia for a while. We had the opportunity to wrestle in the summer at this fair show for CCW, which is a company I work for a lot in Ontario. And it was the first time we'd actually been in a ring together for, oh my gosh, maybe 3 years. And we had a really good match. It sucks it was only in front of, like 20 people at this little fair. But when I heard that we were going to work again in February, I was just super stoked about it. And I think both of us are going to bring everything we got. So it's going to be a really good match. I'm really looking forward to it.
I love tournaments in general just because you're able to maybe tell a great story over the course of an evening, and especially you can really sort of make a name for yourself in a new area if you sort of make some strides in that tournament. I'm just thinking like Amanda Fox last year in Queen of Queens got a lot of recognition for what she did. So is that something that you're hoping to do, seeing as this is New York? It's kind of an area where I guess you haven't been that much before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something I had talked about before was, working more in the United States. I've kind of, I guess my stomping ground's in Ontario, and that's where I've really, spent a lot of my time. So I'm actually really excited to be, traveling more and going more into the United States and going into areas, that I've never worked before. So I'm pretty excited about it, and, I'm hopefully, this gives people a chance to see what I can do, because I feel as though, working in Canada all the time, people don't get the opportunity to actually see me, and see all the hard work that I put into what I'm doing, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of excited to be out there, and hopefully people will take notice.
We've talked to Courtney Rush before about the Ontario indie scene, and it seems that a lot of the previous names have all moved on for whatever reason, either left the area or retired. And apart from you and her, there's a lot of girls who are coming through now, but are lacking a lot of experience. As far as the people in that Ontario scene, who are you looking at as being people coming up that people should look out for?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of up-and-comers, and she's right. A lot of people have kind of moved on, or they've retired. Like Taylor Wilde retired last year, and I feel as though everybody's just kind of moving out of Ontario. But there are a lot coming up, like Xandra Bale, Silesia Sparks. Leah Von Dutch is brand new, but she's worked. She's had a couple matches, and she's good. She's capable, and I think the girls that are coming up are gonna hopefully be strong competitors eventually. But right now, Silesia Sparks, I'm really impressed with. I've had a couple matches with her, and she definitely brings everything to the table. So I can absolutely see her going somewhere.
You started very young as well. When you signed up for wrestling school, I believe it was on your 18th birthday. Is that right? Yeah,
I did.
Was this literally this was the earliest that you could start? So the moment you turned 18, you went and signed on the dotted line?
Yeah, I went to look at it. I went to look at the school when I was 17, and they said no, you need to be 18. So I spent the year kind of learning how to work out, and you know what I mean, I guess things preparing myself for it. And then as soon as I turned 18, I walked into Squared Circle training, handed them my cash, and I was ready to go.
Well, before, just to backtrack a little bit, What got you into wrestling? Because as far as I can tell, you're not exactly like the sort of tomboy girl who we hear about in a lot of these interviews, who sort of hangs around with the lads and is very sort of boisterous and rambunctious. You're more of a girly girl. So what got you into just being interested in wrestling?
It's funny. Yeah, I'm definitely not a tomboy at all. Sports, I don't watch them. I have no interest in playing them. I do not like getting dirty. Definitely, I went to school for makeup. I'm definitely a girly girl. That being said, if you want to thank anyone for, getting me involved in wrestling, my dad had me watching it when I was 3. He was kind of okay, this is Hulk Hogan, sit, watch. And I watched it ever since then. It's kind of wrestling is kind of a very special thing to me, because there was something that I shared with my dad. We used to go to events together. Every pay-per-view we sat down together and watched it. And unfortunately my dad passed away when I was quite young, and the last thing that I ever did with him was actually watch a wrestling pay-per-view. So wrestling's very close to my heart, and that's kind of what got me interested in it, obviously. But I didn't want to become a wrestler until I was about 16, 17. And I had, when I was a kid, I used to put on the wrestling songs and come down to my imaginary ring, which were 2 couches pushed together. But the actual idea of getting into a ring and actually becoming a wrestler didn't happen until I saw Trish Stratus for the first time.
I was 16 or 17, and I was just, I at that point, I had never really seen a woman on that level. And it was really eye-opening to me, and I just thought to myself, like, wow, if this, girl from Toronto can get in there and roughhouse like the guys, like, why the hell can't I? And that's kind of how it started. And then from there, I started, doing some research and this and that, and I found Squared Circle, and I got started, took my first bump.
True or false? You sent a letter to the WWF when you were a child.
True.
Tell us a bit about this, because I kind of knew that you were going to say true, but I kind of wanted you to tell the story a little bit about what was all about.
Well, when I think I was about 9. Yeah, I think I was 8 or 9, and Sunny was managing the Body Donnas, and she, I guess, left them or something. That was the storyline going on. And they had posted, I guess, on the show, it was like, if anybody wants to be our new manager, send us in a resume. And I remember pulling out my bright pink paper and some markers, and I did. I wrote a letter to WWF. My dad took me to the mailbox, and we put some stamps on it, and we sent it away.
That's adorable. That is the most adorable thing in the world. Did you ever hear anything back from them?
No, I never did. No. It was pretty exciting, though, and I had very high hopes for it.
You may not have heard anything back from them, but did you end up getting a WWF merchandising catalogue every quarter to your house then?
Oh, I know I did when I sent a letter to WWF magazine.
Yeah, I actually have almost every WWF magazine from the mid-90s up until, I think, 99. I have all of them.
Go and find your January 1996 WWF magazine and go to the letters page. Not right now.
I will.
At some point, yeah.
I will. I actually will. I'm almost positive I have that issue, so I actually will.
Just on the cover.
Oh, wow. The other thing that's amazing about this from doing a little bit of research, apparently you've got a dog called Hulk Hogan.
Yes, I do. He's laying right in front of me in the sun, sleeping.
This is awesome.
That's amazing.
He's the best. He's a little black cockapoo, and a cockapoo. He's a mix between a Cocker Spaniel and a poodle.
Right.
And he's very manly, and he is very deserving of the name Hulk Hogan. He thinks he's very tough.
Does he tear up all your T-shirts?
Yeah, he does, actually.
That's a perfect name for a dog, then.
That's brilliant. Do you call him Hulkster, by the way?
Yeah, I do. I call him the Hulkster. He comes to Hulk. He comes to Hulk Hogan. He comes to the Hulkster. Sometimes I like to call him Hoagie Bear.
Wow.
This is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
And I just have to say, he also has this super badass Godzilla hoodie that I got him in Japan, and he looks very terrifying when I put it on him.
Dogs with hoodies.
Yeah.
A cockapoo, a new word that I've learned today, with a hoodie. Wow.
Absolutely. It gets cold. He needs a sweater.
He's got fur.
Yeah, but it's short.
Wow.
I hate to be the one to swing it back to wrestling, unfortunately. But your training, we hear some people who say that they found it really easy. We hear some people who say that they found it really difficult to get the hang of. Where do you sit on that? How was it for you?
When I first started, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was incredibly hard. Like I said before, I never played sports. So I wasn't really used to being so physical. It was incredibly hard. It was the hardest thing I ever had to endure for sure. It was, even, it sounds so pathetic, but at the time, I couldn't even do a push-up. I was really, really tiny when I first started wrestling, and I had, no muscle on me, so every bump was killer. And I remember, because I would go, 4 or 5 times a week, and I just remember being sore all the time and, discovering all these muscles that I didn't know I had because they were sore. So yeah, like, I have no problem saying that. It was really, really hard, and every single time I went in there was a struggle. Nothing came easy to me, like, absolutely nothing. Like the flip bumps, the running up the turnbuckles, none of it came naturally to me. I really had to work hard at learning how to do it, and so it was tough. But once I got the hang of it, obviously, like, I loved it. I loved every second being there, but it was really hard.
Which again makes me wonder, for somebody who, like you said, is a bit of a girly girl, couldn't do a push-up, not exactly that athletic, and thought, I'm going to be a wrestler.
I've been told that I'm very, very stubborn and hard-headed, so I think that probably has something to do with it. And I do remember a certain someone during this time telling me that I was going to be able to do it. And when someone says to me that I can't do something, it's like fuel to the fire. It's like, oh, I can't do it? Well, watch me, I'm going to do it. So I think that was also kind of, yeah.
It was your trainer, Rob Fuego, then, who gave you the name Cherry Bomb when you started. Where did that come from exactly? I mean, I know the Runaways song, but what was the reason for Cherry Bomb?
Yes, Rob did. I think it's probably because, at the time I had, pink in my hair, pink bangs. And, I mean, I'm kind of, I've been told anyways, that I'm kind of hyper and giddy and loud and, just kind of a little bit of a firecracker. So I think that probably had something to do with it. I think that's where he got it from. And I'm a punk rocker, so I'm sure that also had something to do with it.
So you made your debut then eventually, May 20th, 2005, I believe, was the day that will go down in the history books. Tell us about your first match, a tag team match, I believe.
Yeah, it was me and Taylor Wilde, and we faced Dania and Tiana Ringer. And it was for a company, I believe it was called Warrior One at the time, and it was in Oshawa, Ontario. And my mom was there, of course, with a video camera. And unfortunately, you can't really see the footage because she's running around the ring, yelling and hollering and not capturing the match at all. But it was a really, really cool experience. I remember being incredibly nervous backstage. I think I even cried a little bit because I was so happy and excited. And I remember after that match was kind of what solidified that for sure that this is what I was going to do. That no matter what, I was going to keep working at it because it was the greatest feeling to be in front of the crowd for the first time. It was amazing.
So you had the likes of Taylor and Tiana to work with it. They were both graduates of Rob Fuego's school as well. Who else was around at that point that you could work with?
During that time, I over the course of the next few months, I had the opportunity to work with the 21st Century Fox, which she actually retired now. But at the time, she had been wrestling for about 4.5 years, and she taught me so much about the wrestling business and was always so helpful and so willing to just guide me and give me advice. And she was just incredibly humble and sweet, and she really made walking into locker rooms not feel so intimidating. So she really helped me a lot. And then, I mean, a lot of the boys, the guy wrestlers that were there, really helped me a lot too. Sean Spears being one of them, he really helped me, took me under his wing, gave me a lot of guidance. Another Ontario wrestler, TJ Harley, he helped me a lot. Danger Boy Derek Wilde, he helped me immensely. I continued training with him in Niagara Falls. So I had a lot of really awesome people around, really pushing and helping and giving me advice. Awesome people.
You seem very lucky in that respect. Then was there ever any doubt in your mind then that you were doing the right thing? No,
I knew that this was where I was supposed to be. It's a weird thing, but a wrestling ring just feels like home to me. Getting into the getting through the ropes and staying in the ring, it feels so comfortable. And it felt comfortable, even the first time I stepped in it. It was just okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. So there's no doubt in my mind. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay, so far so good, but then disaster struck in 2007. You got dropped in a burning hammer and got a neck injury. Tell us about what happened there.
Yeah, I did. I took a burning hammer from actually Derek Wilde. It was just a freak accident, you know, like these things happen. But it was really scary. The ambulance came, and it was actually kind of embarrassing. They like strapped me to this gurney, and you know, had to go to the hospital and get all these X-rays. And thankfully, you know, like it wasn't as severe as it could have been. But it did keep me out for about 9 months. And those 9 months were, you know, I at first I contemplated like, you know, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like maybe this is like, you know, the universe's way of saying like this isn't for you. But I got like really, really depressed not wrestling. And I remember like I couldn't work out either. I couldn't do anything. I didn't work out, and you know the gym is a huge part of my life. So not being able to do that, and then not being able to wrestle, and then you know watching on TV, you're actually going to wrestling shows. It's just all so depressing. That once I felt able to, and I was capable of working out and going back, I did. I went back in a ring, and I was scared to death of everything, and I pretty much had to relearn how to not be so afraid of things. It took like a few months to actually get comfortable again. And then I had my first match, I believe it was March 2008, I'm going to say. And it was a tag match with Dania, and I remember actually crying in the middle of the ring after hugging her because I was so incredibly happy to be doing what I love to do again. It was the most amazing feeling in the world to just be able to do that again. So
I guess that kind of solidifies it because, like you said, you go through that point where you contemplate packing it all in, and then you think about it and you really want to go back, and then you get in there and you do get a bit gun shy. But I guess that's just your mind playing tricks on you to a certain extent, isn't it? I guess it really focuses you into what you really want and what you're willing to do to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, a really good friend of mine actually made me stand up on the top turnbuckle and just stand there for, whatever. I forget how long, but he had me stand up for quite a while he was taking bumps and moving around in the ring and stuff so that I would be comfortable enough to and get over that fear of being up high again. I had to take baby steps at first because, let me tell you, I was nervous to even take a back bump. All I kept thinking was my neck was going to shatter. But once I got past that, I actually feel like I'm a better wrestler because of that. Like, I'm a lot more fearless than I used to be. I think I take bigger risks in the ring now, and I feel like that experience made me appreciate what I'm doing so much more. So I would never have changed it. I'm happy that it happened because I feel like I learned something from it.
It's quite funny you mentioned in that way, because usually when you hear somebody say they received an injury, they get a little bit more tentative because maybe they take less risks and they maybe a little bit more sort of what's the word I'm looking for, considered in what they do. And it sounds like you've gone the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, really, you can't live life worrying that something's going to happen to you. You know what I mean? Accidents happen. That burning hammer, that was a freak accident. That should have never. I mean, he's done the burning hammer to people 1,000 times. You know what I mean? So to sit and go and worry okay, well, maybe I shouldn't do this because there's this possibility that I might break my neck. You can't live like that, especially as a wrestler. Accidents are going to happen no matter what, no matter how careful you are. People, I sprained both my ankles. Once it was because I was giving somebody a hip toss. You know what I mean? Things just happen. So, I feel like that experience kind of opened my eyes to, first of all, how much I love the business, how much I love wrestling, and second of all, that you can't, hesitation really is what gets you injured. So you just kind of have to go balls out, and I have, and I'm happy that I have because I feel like I'm a better wrestler now than I was then. So, yeah.
Just on a final point on this from me, have you took a burning hammer since?
No. That's the one move I won't take it again. I won't.
Wow. All right then. Well, now, talking about how that focused you on your career and helped make you better in the long run, you finally managed to achieve your dream of making it to WWE, albeit for a very short time in May 2010. You ended up on Raw one night in a segment with Goldust. I think this was all in conjunction with a tryout you had with WWE as well. How did that go at the time, and how did it feel to be at big time?
Yeah, that was such an awesome experience. The tryout itself was such an eye-opener for me, and I always told myself that I just wanted to get there. I just wanted to be in a WWE ring. Like, one day, I just want it to happen. And regardless of whether I get signed or I make it, I just wanted to know that I could at least get inside that ring and, you know what I mean, like, feel those ropes. And I remember when I actually got to the arena and the ring was set up, I kind of, like, moseyed on down, and I just stared at it. And a couple of the other extras were standing there just watching me, like, just touch the mat and, like, grab onto the ropes and just to actually feel that it was real, you know. It was just such a great experience. And then, you know, meeting everybody and everybody was so nice, and it was just such a great experience. And I don't know, I feel, and even that experience, I feel, has helped boost my confidence in the ring as well. You know, because, like, it was really scary to walk into the Air Canada Center all by myself and introduce myself to people that I've, you know, looked up to for years. Like, you know, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is just standing next to the ring, and that's somebody that I've idolized, you know. So, and, like, you know, even, like, meeting the Undertaker, and I mean, I may sound like a huge mark here, but, like, these are people that I, you know, used to watch when I was a little kid and have so much respect for. So just being able to walk in and say hello, you know, my name's Laura and I'm a wrestler, like, that was a huge deal for me. So the whole experience was just fantastic. And, you know, doing the commercial itself with Goldust, like, I've been a huge Goldust fan since I was a little kid. So even that was pretty cool, just to be able to, you know, do a little something with him. And he was really nice. And all of it was just such a good experience. It was so positive. I walked away feeling really good about everything.
Your tryout match, was that before the people got let in?
Yeah, that was actually the next day. That was at SmackDown, and that was in Ottawa. Yeah, and I did it was before the people were let in, and it was I worked with Serena. And
I mean, again, I don't know how comfortable you are talking about it, or whether it's you know, personal that you don't want to talk about. But I mean, how was it?
It was good. I felt like it was good. It was. I mean, like, it wasn't exactly like a dark match, you know, because there weren't people there. But, I mean, all the agents were there, and you know, everybody that, I guess, like, does the hiring, like, they were there. And, I mean, it was nerve-wracking, but I felt like it went really well. It was good. And, you know, being in there with Serena, who's just amazing, made it so much better, because, like, she's just one of the best women's wrestlers on the planet. So that in itself was just, it was just cool for me to even get in the ring with her, because I've been wanting to work with her for so long. So yeah, no, it went well. It did. It was good.
You said that everybody watches then. Does the feedback just come from one person, or do you have to, you know, hear it from a line of different people afterwards?
Yeah, it comes from different people. It doesn't just come from one. It comes from different people.
There was actually, this is after this, there was actually a big internet rumor that circulated for a little while last year that you'd been signed to a WWE contract. I think it's because you'd gone to one of the tryouts. I think then, you know, a few days afterwards that had to be, you know, denied as being an untrue story. But are you still looking at that? Is that still an aim in your career? Do you still think that's your ultimate destination?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely would love to work for a company that allows me to do what I love to do for a living, and WWE happens to be one of those companies, so absolutely. I mean, I've been watching WWE since I was 3 or 4, so.
I guess you get some critics who say that, you know, if somebody goes to WWE, essentially that, you know, that they're maybe not going to get a chance to wrestle as much, and I don't know, almost gets maybe criticised for wanting to go to WWE. What are your thoughts on that? That people might say that, oh, you sort of, letting yourself down by having that as your ultimate dream?
Well, I think that everybody has their idea of what they want and what their dreams are. And I don't think it's right for anybody to come along and say, oh, well, you shouldn't have that dream because of this, 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 and this. Like, quite frankly, that's your own business. That's your dream. That's what you want. And nobody else has any right to say anything about it. So all the critics can suck it. I want to get signed, and that's it. Like, I don't really care what they think. What's right for me might not be right for somebody else.
That's absolutely right. I mean, but there are other places as well that people can make a living in this business as well. And I know you're one of the people who've been lucky enough to have a tour of Japan, which happened in late 2010. How did that all come about?
I was asked to go and do a tour in September of 2010, and then they offered me to come back in November for another tour of 2010. It was a really good experience. It was amazing. I love Japan. I would love to go back.
How did you find the different styles and the different culture just of the Japanese people in general?
Yeah, like I've heard that, you get like culture shock and stuff like that, but I didn't really find that. The only thing that was really hard for me was just the food, because I'm vegetarian, so it was kind of difficult to find things to eat. So I pretty much lived off protein shakes and these little chocolate bears that I've sort of become obsessed with. But I basically lived off of that the whole time. And other than that, though, I loved it. It was super fun, and everybody is so nice and respectful, and it was just, and the shopping was amazing, everything about it. And we got to go to these really awesome wrestling shows, and it was just, I loved it. I loved every second there.
Let's talk a little bit about AEW as well, Absolute Intense Wrestling out of Ohio. You had a match with Hilly Hatred, who I think you would have wrestled while you were in Japan as well, but you had a match with Hilly Hatred in AEW last October for the JWP title. I haven't seen the full match yet, but I've seen clips on YouTube, and you looked brilliant in that match. I mean, it looked like a fantastic match. How was it for you?
Well, thank you. That match was a big deal for me because I think a lot of people just assumed that I couldn't hold my own with Haley, and it meant something that I could, and that I wasn't afraid, and that I was going to go all out and give everything I had and show everybody that I'm not afraid, that I can go toe to toe with the biggest and the strongest, because Haley is incredibly strong and powerful, especially compared to me, and it meant something to me that I was able to hold my own against her, and I think I surprised not only the fans, but I think I surprised her too. I don't know if she was expecting me to be able to hold my own against her, and so it was a big deal to me, and it was a really good experience. So
I have another question with regards to AEW, and it's in regards to your other guest on the show, in fact, and that's Veda Scott. You took on Veda at AEW Girls Night Out 4, and it was a really good match, but dear God, you killed her at the finish.
Yeah. I love Veda. She's awesome. I felt really bad, actually, that she got, that she clunked her head. I obviously would never want to hurt anybody, so that was kind of, I felt bad. That sucked. I really didn't want to hurt her, and, sometimes, again, like I was saying before, sometimes, accidents happen in wrestling, freak accidents just happen, and, it was never my intention, though, to ever hurt her. She's such a good little competitor. I mean, she's so new, and she's got so much potential. And hopefully, I'm really hoping that we get to work together again. Hopefully, she won't put my head in a post, though.
I think one of the things, because the footage is up, the footage is online. If you wanted to see it, AEW posted the end of the match, and more than anything, I think, apart from Veda's head clunking the ring post, there's a reaction of one guy in the crowd who just jumps up on his feet. I think, like Stu and I were talking about before, I think he thought he'd legitimately seen a death in the ring. It's just the most amazing visual.
Oh my God. Oh, I haven't seen it, but you're making me want to. That is hilarious.
I don't even feel like I'm doing it justice.
No, I'm definitely going to have to look that up, but she definitely didn't die, so that's, that's a good thing.
It was a hell of an ending, though. It's one that everybody talks about, so I guess, no massive harm done. She walked away and everything was okay, I guess, so,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she was fine. It's just, I felt terrible because I never, ever, ever want to hurt anybody, you know what I mean? That's never my intention, so, but...
Also speaking about AEW, I didn't want to point this out, but I feel like I must do a little bit of a guilt trip on you. You were meant to be at Girls Night Out 5, that was quite recent, and you didn't make it. And because you didn't make it, we had Mia Yim take on Alison Kay, and Alison Kay had her nose broken in 3 places. Now, if you'd have been there, who knows, Alison Kay may not have had her nose broken in 3 places.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Alison's got quite the mouth on her, so it doesn't really surprise me that Mia Yim kicked her in the face, would I have kicked her in the face? No, I would have super kicked her head off, though. So I don't know if she would have been safer with me or with Mia Yim. I think either way she probably would have got hurt.
Man, poor Alison Kay, she's just getting it from all angles at the minute.
Well, like I said, she has a mouth on her, and she wants to talk shit about people, then, you know what I mean? We're not all just going to stand back and let it happen.
Lord. Well, you might need to do a lot of international travel soon if your career as a actress takes off.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty exciting. Have you guys seen the trailer?
We have, yes. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, this is a movie which is coming out soon called Beatdown. Tell us about what it's all about and what your part is in it.
Well, I actually play myself in the film, just a very nasty, vicious, aggressive version of myself. And I'm kind of the rival character to the main character's name, who's Fran, and she's a young girl. She's starting in wrestling. Her dad was a wrestler. And Cherry Bomb doesn't really like that very much, and it feels very threatened by her. It doesn't feel like she deserves a spot. And she tries to make Fran's life a living hell. And the title of the movie, Beatdown, centers around the scene where Cherry Bomb finally gets her hands on Fran and literally beats the living hell out of her. And, it was a really fun experience. It was great. I'm actually really excited to see the film. I haven't even seen it yet. I've just seen the trailers and done a little bit of the voiceover, so I haven't had a chance to actually see the film yet.
How did you get involved in it in the first place?
Well, originally, someone had contacted me about doing, possibly doing stunt work. And, they had also mentioned that there was a role up for grabs as the character, Cherry Bomb. And
you're perfect for that role, quite frankly. If they're going to have a character called Cherry Bomb, I think you'd be the first person who they should be thinking of.
Yeah, well, I mean, that obviously wasn't the character's name at the time.
I was going to say, because if that was in the script, you think, I'm in with a shot here.
But yeah, so they contacted me and said, we need somebody for stunt work for this movie, and it has to do with wrestling. And I was like, okay, why not? Sure. So I went out to Toronto, and I did the audition, and, they had mentioned, well, we're also looking for this rival character. Do you want to give it a shot? Do you want to, try out for it? I'm like, okay, sure. Why not? Can't hurt, right? And thank God I did, because they picked me, right on the spot. They're like, good, you're going to be this person. And they decided that they wanted to keep my name, Cherry Bomb. And it was kind of cool because I got to wear, my actual wrestling tights, and I got to bring my CCW title with me. And, so that's kind of how it got started. And then they flew me out to Newfoundland, and I shot on set for about 2 weeks.
What was the experience of that like? I mean, working on movies, people always say there's lots of waiting around for not a lot of action.
It was totally different than anything I'd ever experienced. I did a little bit of stunt work for small budget films, but I'd never done anything where it was a huge set with lights and everybody running around doing all these different things. It was really cool, and there's waiting, but I didn't mind. I loved every second of it. I could have stayed there all day, every day. It was fun. But it was challenging because I'd never really acted before, so getting used to walking on set and hitting your mark, and I mean, even just the acting part of, they say when you're on film, you're supposed to kind of act more like yourself, more natural. Whereas like with wrestling, everything, the volume's turned up on everything. So it was kind of hard to adjust to being more subtle, I guess. But the experience was great, and everybody was so nice. Like the director, Deanne Foley, is just incredible. She's so amazing and so good at what she does. And Paul Pope was the producer, and again, like really, really awesome. Everybody from like the crew to the makeup and hair to wardrobe, everybody was so open and nice, and it was a really, really great experience.
Is there anything you've been able to take from the acting world that you might be able to use in the wrestling world?
I think confidence. Really, I think that's it. I think, again, it's another thing that I've done that has helped me feel more confident in what I'm doing. So I would definitely say, yeah, like, but other than that, like, it's so different. It's so, so, so different than wrestling. Like, even the wrestling scenes itself was like, you know, stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. And it was weird to be doing that because, you know, in my head, I just want to go, 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 go. And you can't. You have to, like, you know, bump and then stop. And then get up and then bump and then stop. So it was kind of strange, but definitely I would say I walked away with a hell of a lot more confidence.
Just on a side note, because you mentioned it earlier, and I just didn't want to let it pass without mentioning it. You talked about your gear that you have, and your wrestling gear is some of the best that I've seen. It's just great, and I just feel like I had to point that out just as a compliment, just to, you know, if is it your brain that comes up with a lot of these designs, or do you kind of just throw an idea to somebody and say, look, here's what I've got in my mind's eye, design it?
Yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of both. Like, I like to sit and, you know, mess around with new ideas like that, and then I take it to my seamstress, and he kind of helps me take all my jumbled up ideas and put it together in a nice little outfit. But the black and red and white types that I have made was just, yeah, like a combination of actually a few different people's ideas, and we just sort of came together and came up with this really cool design. And the sparrows on the side, or the swallows, are my favorite part of the whole outfit. I absolutely love them with the cherries in their mouth. I really want to get them on my next pair of tights. And I want to get the Misfit sign put somewhere too. I want to get the little fiend from the Misfits put on probably my kick pads. I have all kinds of ideas, but yeah, it's like we come together and we sort of brainstorm, and out comes some sweet outfits.
Tell us about where people can eventually see Beatdown. It's currently doing the festival circuit, am I right?
Yeah, it is. It's right now there's a festival, I believe it's in California, and it actually is debuting, or did debut for the first time in the United States. So, and I guess from there, yeah, it's going to different festivals. But so far the reviews are great. It's doing really, 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 really well. So hopefully it'll be out on the big screen at some point.
Excellent. One final question on Beatdown then. If you play a character who's determined to make the lead character's life a living hell, was there anybody that you looked on in the wrestling scene and you thought, I'm going to base the character on this person? Did you ever come across anyone like the movie version of Cherry Bomb?
No, not really. To be honest, I just thought of something that really pissed me off and went with that. I kind of envisioned Courtney Rush in my head, and I was like, oh, there you go.
Well, there's a nice segue into what we wanted to get into, because Courtney Rush was also in Beatdown, and you and her have a bit of a thing going on at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit.
I feel calling it a bit of a thing is probably the best way to do it. Stu, please take over, because this is just it's our crazy, is what it is.
Yeah, well, the question I have for you is, when's Courtney Rush back in Neo?
Oh, God.
Okay, Courtney Rush was fired from Neo. She's not coming back to Neo. When you're fired from somewhere, you don't come back. She has in her head, like, I don't know, I keep seeing these Occupy Neo and, oh, I'm going to take over Neo tweets. Like, shut up. You're not coming back to Neo. You burned your bridge there. Like, she got involved in something she shouldn't have, and now she's paying for it.
Yeah, we might have been slightly involved in those Occupy Neo things.
You might have been.
Anyway.
You might have been. I'm much more neutral.
Okay, well, in that case...
I like everybody.
In that case, carry on, Mr. Burton.
No, I'm just a bit of a fence sitter. That's all it is.
All right. Well, look. Let's let's get the unpleasantness out of the way then, and let's get back to a quick final plug then for Girls Grand Prix coming up later this month. As well as that, what else have you got coming up that people need to check out in the next coming months?
Well, I'll be back at Neo Spirit Pro Wrestling on March 24th in Niagara Falls, Ontario. And I also have Tri-City Wrestling on February 19th in Kitchener, Ontario. And other than that, I have some big things happening, but I can't really tell you yet, so just stay tuned. You guys will be really stoked when I actually am allowed to tell you, but it's big and it's going to be great.
Not even a hint? Is there a hint possible?
It involves travel, lots of travel.
Alrighty.
That's all I can say.
Okay, cool. Well, keep us informed on that whenever you can, and we'll get the word out. Until then, thanks very much for coming on the show and giving us a little bit of an insight into the life of Cherry Bomb. It's a weird and wonderful place.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been fun.
And good luck at 2CW.
Awesome. It's going to be the battle of the super kicks.
It is, isn't it? Why didn't I just think of that? God, I'm so stupid.
My super kick's going to be her super kick.
I guess we'll find out on February 24th.
Oh, I'm confident. The BSE is going to kick her ass. I got longer legs. What can I say?
Ah, there we go. Right, it all comes down to anatomy.